made their way out of the city throughout the day, and for most of the afternoon there was a steady flow of traffic. Late this afternoon, though, there was a slight build-up in Hexham, but police say motorists can expect only minor delays. Meanwhile, in Merewether this afternoon, the driver of this Holden utility narrowly escaped disaster. Eyewitnesses say that he backed his vehicle through the guide fence at the embankment overlooking Frederick Street and the Merewether Baths. Police diverted traffic in Frederick Street as the ute toppled precariously with just one wheel still on the ground. Eventually the ute was towed to safety, with the broken fence the only reminder of the driver's near miss.
Even though it's only early days in the 1986 soccer season, Rosebud have already got more than their share of injury worries. The 15-man squad has one out this week on suspension and 3 in doubt with injuries, including English import Paul Crabtree, who's already got ankle trouble. Add this to the fact that they face the team that's widely regarded as the best in Australia, and it's enough to dishearten even a staunch Rosebud fan. But as for coach Peter Irving, he's philosophical and hopeful.
It's made things very hard for the weekend, as we are lacking in depth, and at this stage it looks that I might have to pull one of the lads out of the youth team.
It must be fairly disappointing considering when you face such a formidable opposition as Sydney City, which are regarded as possibly the best team in Australia.
Well, it is. I mean, they probably are the best team in Australia, but well, we've got to go out there and give everything we've got and hope that we get the right result.
The Australian Country Championships have brought together teams from the Hunter region, the Central Coast and interstate. In the women's event, New South Wales, Victoria and an invitation side from Newcastle and the Central Coast are vying for top honours. In the men's, an Australian service team is also competing. 2 winning teams will be declared at the end of the 3-day event. However, the championships also provide selectors with the chance to pick players for competitions later this year. Although Queensland and Western Australia are not represented, Chairman of Selectors Alan Buckley says there are several outstanding players.
The quality of the teams here include members of both Canberra and Newcastle sides, which are in the Sydney First Grade, which is the top club competition in the world. So the standard overall is exceedingly high.
Are there any particular outstanding stars?
Well, in the New South Wales men's side, you'd have to regard Simon Gill from the Albury area as an exceedingly top player because he's probably due to make the Olympic side in probably 3 or 4 years, and also Renee Ball, who's a Canadian Olympic player. So those 2 players would be by far the most higher quality of stars. However, most of the players are getting to that level.
It's fine.
Late this afternoon, preparations were well in hand for tonight's show. A local farmer has cleared a part of his property to make way for the stage. Scaffolding has been constructed to hang the lights, and the big job of wiring the sound system is being handled by a team of supporters. The concert features Kevin Barrage and Vegemite Reggae, but also a lineup of Port Stephens bands. The idea is to give the budding groups a chance to perform before the expected crowd of 2,000. The bands will also be recorded both on sound tape and film, needed these days if unknown bands wish to crack the big time. But promoters of open-air concerts always gamble with the weather.
Well, it's always a punt, as you know. You can insure it, but the price of insuring it's worth more than what it's worth to run it. But you know, it's always a gamble. But I'm hopeful.
Christ Church Cathedral, the Dean of Newcastle, Reverend Graham Marks, gave a sermon lamenting the fact that 12% of Australians now say they do not believe in God. He asked the congregation to consider again the significance of Christ's resurrection and what it means to be a Christian in the 80s.
12 people at least out of every 100 with whom you have a deal no longer believe in anything. The challenge, the opportunity is there for us this Easter day to accept Christ's forgiveness, to open ourselves to his grace, and to enjoy his Spirit with us as companion and friend, and to have that forgiveness and grace and companionship flow over into our daily lives.
Easter Sunday has also been a day for spending with family and friends. After a gloomy start to the day, the sun came out, and local parks and waterways were a hive of activity, and in some cases inactivity. And if today was relaxing, for most of us tomorrow will be much the same.
Melissa Bass has been through a lot in her short life. At 5, she was diagnosed as having a tumour on the brain. The tumour was removed and she was given ray treatment and chemotherapy. While she's considered to be cured, those life-saving treatments have taken their toll. Her pituitary gland was affected and she no longer produces growth hormones. There are drugs that would stimulate growth, and her mother Janice says she needs them urgently.
It's most important that she gets it, because without it she's not going to grow. The last 4 years has proved this, that without treatment she's only grown 4 centimetres, and it's just obvious that there will be no growing pattern until something is done about it, until she receives this treatment.
The federal government controls the distribution of 2 drugs that could help Melissa. The first is the natural hormone extracted from healthy human pituitary glands. Health Minister Neil Blewett has taken it off the market because it's been linked with an incurable viral infection that attacks the brain and the central nervous system. A $16,000 study has been ordered by the government in a bid to eliminate the risk. The other drug is a synthetic growth hormone, which is 10 times the cost of the natural one, a cost that the government must bear. It's on clinical trial, but because Melissa hasn't been treated with growth hormones before, she's been told that she's not eligible. So Melissa has to wait in a no-man's land, hoping that one of the drugs will be available soon.
I just feel that anything that can be done for a child should be done. She has gone through enough in the past, and I just feel that she's needing this help and they should be giving it to her, regardless of whether it's money that they're holding back. Nothing has been said that it is money, but I just don't care. So long as she gets this treatment, that's all I'm worried about. Whatever avenue I have to take, we'll take.
Yesterday's play of the 18-hole course at the Cessnock Golf Club was the second half of the 36-hole tournament. Leading the field on the 9th was Queensland's Stuart Bouvier on 2 over and Coffs Harbour competitor Stuart Parry on 7 over. In the girls' division, Shaney Wharf from Western Australia scored 7 over alongside Queenslander Vicky Briggs on 8 over par. It's the second year that the tournament has been staged at Cessnock. The 204 competitors include local, state and interstate representatives. And next year it's hoped that international competitors will also walk the greens. Golfing identity Jack Newton has been right behind the organisation of the Classic and says that the overall aim of the tournament is to encourage young and up-and-coming golfing champions.
The whole object of the tournament is it is for kids under 17 down to under 12. So the whole idea of the tournament is to allow them to experience championship conditions. We make them register and we make them give their scores in every 3 holes like they would have to do in a big tournament like the Australian Open, for example. And also the object of the tournament is that they can compare themselves at their relative age groups.
Saturday morning. The 3 people in the car, 2 women and a 9-year-old girl, were killed instantly by the heavy impact. Miraculously, the 28-year-old female ambulance driver escaped with a broken arm and multiple lacerations. At first, rescue squads believed that only 2 people had been killed until they found the body of the child wedged between the front and rear seats of the car. Yesterday afternoon, police found the body of a man whose vehicle landed at the bottom of an embankment on the Old Sydney Road at Buckety near Pete's Ridge. Police say the body had been there at least 1 or 2 days. After it's believed the car hit a rock wall and skidded across to the other side of the road. Although an official identification is still to be made, police believe the man to be 36 years old and from the Sydney suburb of Mossman. Meanwhile, this Easter long weekend holiday has been the busiest for the Westpac Rescue Helicopter. And Operations Manager John Skeen says that the pressure has been felt by all volunteer crew members.
Well, this weekend, this is the busiest Easter break we've ever had in the 10-year history of the service. We've had crews on roster, of course, 24 hours a day. We've had 6 volunteer crew guys looking after things and our pilots over that period of time, and we've so far done 16 completed missions, rescue missions or medical missions.
What type of pressure does this put on the crew?
Well, the crews that are looking after things this weekend, of course, are all trained and do this sort of every weekend anyway, plus as a 24-hour basis during the week. But when the pressures come at a holiday period, of course, the helicopter comes back here of a day. The crews turn the machine around immediately, and of course, what usually happens, they have time to have lunch. But I noticed out there this afternoon that there was still some Big Macs left lying around from lunchtime at 6 o'clock at night, so it's been a fairly hectic period.
Shiny materials are popular, but the lines are definitely reminiscent of the 50s. Wide shoulders and baggy pants. That, according to the administrator, was one of the major problems in the sacked council. It spent too much time arguing over minor matters that should have been decided by the council officers. And Mr Saunders sees the appointment of an executive officer as an answer to that problem. To appoint a chief executive officer to replace the town clerk, there needs to be a change in legislation. Probably, for expediency's sake, a change in the Greater Newcastle Act. That's the act that specifies the number of aldermen and wards there should be in this council. And it's also the act that has to be changed before a new council can be elected. The Newcastle City Administration has become a big business. It has a workforce of almost 1,000 and has an annual budget of $54 million, which is on par with commercial companies like Ganinan. For that reason, the administrator believes that it should be structured like a private enterprise, with the executive officer taking on the role of general manager and the council making up the board of directors.
Well, I think it's a very big organisation in terms of business, and I think it needs somebody who can control the running of the council to leave the policy and the future direction of the council to the elected council itself. They have enough work to do in that respect, and to leave the actual running of the council to the council officers.
The position of executive officer would be advertised, and the town clerk, Barry Lewis, is expected to be one of the contenders. The proposal still has to be ratified by the Minister for Local Government, Janice Crozier, who says she's awaiting discussions with Mr Saunders before she makes her decision.
The playgroup moved lock, stock and barrel from the Technical College to the mall for the protest. During its 9-year operation, the playgroup has become the biggest in New South Wales, with 400 children and 200 mothers attending last year. It is not a child-minding service, but a place where mothers can meet and supervise their children under the guidance of a coordinator. This will soon cease because funding and the use of facilities at the Technical College are being restored. The college says this is because the playgroup is not an official course, and as less funds are available this year, it must go. The mothers say the service is underrated, and they're not prepared to give it up without a fight.
Well, we want either the Department of TAFE or some other organisation, perhaps say the Newcastle City Council or some other government department, to offer us premises to help take us on and to provide a coordinator, because we have had a fully qualified coordinator for 9 years, and to take on this large playgroup and help us support the children.
The playgroup has been told their premises will be bulldozed sometime before October this year. Meanwhile, the mothers say they'll continue to lobby state and local politicians and the public for support.
Displays of irrigation equipment, experimental seed varieties and fruit packaging gear were on show for fruit and vegetable growers from the Hunt Valley, Central Coast and Sydney. Some farming equipment, like this tractor, was hand-made to meet the demanding requirements of the horticultural industry. A series of seminars were also held throughout the day, underlining the importance of
there's nowhere
farming,
evolution
offering conservation methods. From the Department of Agriculture says many of the exhibits also illustrate the concept of conservation farming, an important consideration
and the other bit is that...
Well, some of the features that we've got here are equipment that's designed for minimum tillage. We've got people that are displaying windbreaks, both naturally growing trees and also artificial material. Micro-irrigation, which all goes hand in hand with this sort of not disturbing the soil and washing it all away.
And what's the Department
other
of Ag
areas of the rural sector are experiencing widespread problems, the outlook for the small landholder, according to Jim Murison, is bright.
There's an avenue for good quality produce. There's an increased interest in exporting to different parts of the world. And we in Australia have got to remember that we're really the only stable country of size in the southern hemisphere which supply, say, peaches when they're under 6 foot of snow in the United States and Europe. So yes, horticulture has a good future, but it's very competitive and it's not to be entered into with the thought of making a lot of money.
Okay.
It has taken Des Warren only 3 years to put together the 15,000 spoons in his display. He has travelled all over the world, buying and trading spoons, putting the finishing touches on his collection of American presidents, Australian prime ministers and an African wildlife series.
Well, we're all my favourites. I've got solid gold spoons, I've got sterling silver, I've got replicas of the Queen Elizabeth from Western Australia presentation, 1954. I've got the Diane quintuplets there from Canada, the only set known to be in Australia. I've got the Truett spoon from England, 1695. I've got all antique ones come through every generation through.
Why did you decide to collect spoons?
Just to keep me out of mischief.
In doing so, Des has acquired some very valuable items, including a $3,000 gold spoon from Western Australia, complete with gold nugget, and a diamond heart spoon from the United States. Des says he has enough room here to double his present collection. This would set the seal on his reputation as the biggest stirrer in town.
To be officially classed as a veteran car, a vehicle must have been built before the First World War. Today, Sydney members of the Veteran Car Club of Australia took advantage of the fine motoring weather as they pass through the Newcastle area on a club rally. Thousands of dollars have gone into the restoration of these vehicles, but their owners say that each car is priceless. For instance, this 1906 Giraffe model, a 1908 Blue Delage, and this prize Dion. And for the solo motorist, this 1915 Standard Reading motorcycle. And Newcastle has its own pride and joy, a raceabout cage built in 1912, a rare collector's item as it's the only one of its kind on the roads. Cruising at 90 kilometres, the car can clock up to 130 k's on the speedometer. According to the veteran enthusiasts, cars like these ones grow increasingly harder to come by, but at least there's still some around for hard-working journalists to enjoy a Sunday afternoon drive.
The Branxton Golf Club must be wondering why its big-name $20,000 Wyndham Estate Pro-Am tournament didn't attract a bigger crowd. Unseasonably hot and windy weather on Saturday must have discouraged many, but even in yesterday's cooler conditions, there was still only a small crowd on hand to see some of Australia's best golfers do their thing. At the end of 18 holes on Saturday and another 9 yesterday, Victorian professional Ian Stanley won the trophy and $2,300 in prize money. He hit a 2-under par 103 in difficult conditions. Finishing second, 4 strokes behind, was Vic Bennett, with 5 other players tied for third. Only the top 4 could go into the skins game, and so there was a playoff. Greg Honan and veteran Billy Dunk winning through. The 9-hole skins game was the first ever held in Australia for local players, with Ian Stanley once again taking the top money. Ian won $2,500 of the $6,600 purse put up by Total Building Maintenance. Vic Bennett finished with another $2,100. Greg Honan pocketed $2,000, but poor Billy Dunk didn't win a hole and received not a single dollar. With more to smile about was local golfer Richard Kraft from Cessnock, who won the amateur trophy in the Pro-Am. Proceeds from the weekend's golf will go to the New South Wales Multiple Sclerosis Society, and organisers are hoping to hold a bigger and better tournament next year.
Mick's been on the phone to me about every second night and last night, and they were tremendous.